Hey, all my Pisces friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your September 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Pisces, I'm talking about Pisces rising as dictating the landscape of the chart. This is also applicable to Pisces moon and Pisces sun. And if you have 3 or more planets in the sign of Pisces, this video is for you as well. When I refer to a day and a time, it's based on the Pacific time zone, so please adjust for your location. The month starts off with Uranus transiting your 3rd house retrograde. This has been going on. Uranus has been in your 3rd house since 2018. And it's going to remain there until 2025 in July, when it will move into Gemini. And then later in the year, it will retrograde back into your 3rd house. The 3rd house governs all types of communications, written communications, verbal communications. It highlights the ability to learn, to analyze things. It also represents your environment in the sense of your childhood upbringing, your workmates, your teammates, your schoolmates, your siblings, your cousins. It is the perception in many ways of your childhood. It represents things that are based in facts, the media, journalism, newspapers, documentaries, reporting. It rules short trips, in anything that moves you, ships and rail cars and automobiles and skateboards. It rules the post office and deliveries, anything that comes in the form of a message. That's the 3rd house. Now we layer on that the Taurus energy of wanting some sense of stability, wanting something that I can count on. Taurus likes tradition, it likes to build a sense of trust over time. It's more of they call it the silent one because it takes things in internally and processes them, and then uses its voice and its skills to express itself. Taurus is a very rich sign. It's very fertile. It rules our food. It rules our sense of comfort. Uranus makes everything uncomfortable. It breaks up the status quo. It breaks up the history. It goes in and it basically detonates that which is out of date, is antiquated. So this has been potentially for Pisces antiquated thoughts, antiquated ways of speaking about yourself, your history, your sense of security, your sense of being able to build something in the material world. So now as Uranus retrogrades, it's going to go back to 23 degrees. You're going to get to revisit a lot of the things that you had been experiencing over the last few years. Uranus moved into your 3rd house in 2018, and you would feel this very unexpected things would happen that would really be life-changing or change the direction of your life. We see at the beginning of the month that Uranus is making a tense aspect to Mercury. Mercury has just moved direct. It was retrograde through most of August. Mercury is our everyday mind and naturally rules the 3rd house. Uranus is our genius mind that invents new things and looks out into space and looks to the future. So there's some kind of argument going on. There's some kind of tense moment where you're feeling this sense of, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether I can actually pull this off. Leo is your 6th house. It's a house of work. It's a house of employment. It's a house of your health, your pets, your everyday routines, meaning your habits, your daily habits. Do I get up? Do I make a cup of coffee? Do I go to my juicer? And so there's a tension between what has been and what can be, and all of this is going on within your mental process. The moon is here at this time, but the moon is going to move very quickly, but it's still a significant time. We also see that Uranus has been in a long-term conversation with Pluto and with Neptune, both favorable, but at the same time challenging, because Pluto in your 12th house has been sort of starting to bring up the old story. You naturally rule the 12th house, where we feel unseen, where we spend time alone, in reflection, in meditation, in creation. Also times where we feel invisible or we feel isolated. So it's a kind of a polarizing house. And yet at the same time, it's rich in what it has to offer through that experience. Pluto's going to bring the more challenging side of that. And as it retrogrades back into your 11th house, Pluto's going to start to deconstruct anything that's getting in the way of forward motion. And this could very much be within your thought process, within your vision of how you perceive possibilities. This transformation is supported by Neptune, your ruling planet, as it retrogrades in your first house, giving you an opportunity again to really root in your sense of connection to the divinity within yourself. And through that, this long-term conversation will bring much benefit. But it starts off with great tension both in my mind and in my everyday activities, and potentially emotionally as well. We also will see that later in the day, we've got Pluto here at 0 degrees, 0 minutes of Aquarius. So when we go to, let's say, 6 p.m., we see now that Pluto has moved into your 11th house. This is the house naturally ruled by Uranus, and it's Capricorn right now. So there's going to be a revisit of the structures you've built previously to support your hopes and your dreams. There's going to be a revisit of the social circles, social groups that you interact with. There is going to be a revisit of the future and of the renovation of that future. And this is going to go on for a while. Pluto's going to retrograde and then move back and settle into your 12th house until 2000, and I believe it's 43. So this last few months of Pluto's transit in your 11th house is going to do like what they call a spring cleaning, or a final walkthrough to move your story forward. And this has also, to me, been evidenced by Saturn's transit through your first house, really bringing in a sense of soberness, somberness. What is sustainable? What is not sustainable? Are you building a strong platform for your future based on your creativity, your spiritual laws within you, the spiritual dynamics that rule you? Do you get up in the morning and connect with your inner being, or do you hit the ground running and get very much in your human body? Because all of those things could potentially present challenges. We see that Pluto will retrograde back into Capricorn until November, where it will re-enter Aquarius on November 19th, 2024, and settle there. So that's going to be pretty fabulous. So Uranus went retrograde, started at 27 degrees, and it will go all the way back to 23 degrees. Uranus's retrograde will last until January 30th, 2025. Pluto's retrograde back into Capricorn will really break up those last few degrees of cobwebs, of fears, of trepidations, of limitations. It could also be very illuminating to the authority and the structures in your life that hold power over you, and it could destruct a lot of that stuff, meaning, sort of a breaking down. That's what I want to put it. We also see here that at this time Pluto is making a blind side to quincunx. I like to call it a blind side. It's where I could have potential frustrations. I could have potential fears. My mind could be running a little bit busy, could be a little accelerated, because I'm sensing this new corner of either my mind or the structure of my life that's actually blocking me. And there could be a sense of frustration. We also see that at this time, the moon is in a quincunx to Pluto. So something emotionally could be going on where what you want, what you desire, what you want for your future is somehow just being slightly held back. The Leo energy is your 6th house of work, of self-expression in the workplace. And I say that because Leo is about self-expression. So I think, Pisces, there's a very good possibility that in the coming years, as you stretch your creativity or your healing powers or your healing gifts, whatever divine gifts you came into this universe with or into this earth plane with, you get to capitalize on those, and they will reveal themselves more and more as you practice them and stand in awareness of them. But on this first day, there could be a sense of frustration. There could be a sense of the things that you want to change, but you don't want to change. It's a weird conflict in some way. All right. Now we go into a new moon the very next day on the 2nd. This new moon is in Virgo at 11 degrees, and that's going to happen at 6:55 p.m. Virgo is your 7th house of professional partnerships, of intimate partnerships, of peace and harmony, a sense of diplomacy where civility reigns. This new moon is at 11 degrees, and that 11 degrees is the master number of thought. And I really think this is offering you an opportunity for new thoughts. And I think those new thoughts are supported by Pluto right now, and its challenging dynamics to Mars, and its supporting dynamic to both Neptune and Uranus. Neptune being in your 1st house, Uranus being in your 3rd house, and this new moon being in your 7th house. And I really, for some reason, feel that there could potentially be something new in the way of how you make money and resources coming up, but it'll require a brave step, a brave leap on some level, and trusting that what you've been building, what Saturn has been offering you, is sustainable. Now, Saturn at this time of this new moon is making a square to Jupiter. And Jupiter is in your 4th house of home. So there may be somewhere where you feel as if I can't expand what I want because I have responsibilities or I have duties of some kind. This to me is really a opportunity to shift your belief system. Jupiter is a natural traveler. It rules international travel. And yet here in Gemini, it's really stretching itself the furthest because it's being required to look at the everyday details, to look, to analyze, to assess, to take in the information. And this would be the information of what's going on within your home sector, what makes you feel at home. And it could very well be challenging because you feel like you have responsibilities, Saturn, you have obligations, and you're empathetic and you're compassionate. But this new moon somehow is going to offer you an opportunity to plant the seeds for the liberation from that obligation. This is a very loose opposition. It's 7 degrees apart, so it's not intense, but it does make a half square to Pluto. So this could infer that there are fears and trepidations, there are concerns that you're not being responsible or you have responsibilities, and they are keeping you from your expansion. But I don't know that that's necessarily true, because when you stretch yourself, you may find that others are inspired by that very stretch. Okay, so let's now go onto the 4th. I'm going to move this back to 12 p.m. And on the 4th, we're going to see Mars move back in or move into Cancer. Let me go a little later in the day. Okay, so now we see that Mars has entered Cancer. Mars is not in its strongest position here. It's considered in fall. When a planet is in fall, it is in the opposition of it, or in the opposite sign of its exaltation. So there's a sense of awkwardness. There's a sense of maybe not getting all that you want to do accomplished. When a planet is in fall, it doesn't feel respected. It doesn't feel heard or listened to, and doesn't feel taken seriously. So here, with Mars wanting to move a story forward and be brave, there could be this tethering here and this idea that, I don't know. I don't know if I really want to, if I can do that. I don't know if I can. Cancer by nature can be slightly unsure of itself. You know, there's so much energy going out, and Pisces by nature has a lot of compassion and a lot of empathy. Mars is here in your fifth house, giving you an opportunity to assert yourself. And yet at the same time, there's tension. You know, here we see this quincunx to Pluto, the square to Neptune, and the moon. You know, this moves quickly, so I'm going to focus on these two planets because here Mars has to, like, you know, if you think about Mars as hot and fire, and now it's going into water, and that creates steam. Now, steam moved the steam engine, the train, but it has to create some sort of something that's very uncomfortable here. And that's what you may not be able to see. Here's this again, the cusp of your 11th and 12th house is activated. The cusp of your first and second house is activated. And in a way that's offering review. Have I been brave enough? Have I asserted myself? Have I let my frustrations hold me back in some way? These are the things that are going to come into your forefront of your thinking. And I think that's further evidenced by Chiron in your second house, making a favorable aspect to Mercury now, as Mercury is moving direct. So I really get to start thinking about, you know, my creativity, my self-expression, putting myself in a position that's tees me up to use my creativity. Again, Leo is your sixth house of work, sixth house of health. It also involves your pets. And Chiron, the wounded healer, is making a favorable aspect to your fourth house, offering sort of this individual thought, this individual assertion. That's Aries. And as I do that, I start to shift my experience. I feel my expansion. I feel the possibilities. Jupiter rules publishing, writing, branding, marketing. This could very well be an expansion of your interactions in social media, because we have your 11th house and your fourth house of Gemini being activated. So you could find there's family on the internet, or family through the internet, or a sense of common beliefs as a result of conversations or information. All right, let's go now to the 9th. And this is a day when Mercury re-enters Virgo after its retrograde. I'm going to move this to 12 o'clock. So we see that Mercury is now at 0 degrees, and for the third time, it is in this transit yod with Pluto and Neptune. I referred to this back in the August video when Mercury was retrograde, because this is very significant. The finger of God puts the apex, being Mercury. The focal point is on information, on and I want to offer it this way, because I don't know that it's information that you're giving. It could be information that you're receiving. There is, you know, again, this is the 7th house for you. This is a house that is diplomatic, a house that creates harmony and peace through civility. And this focal point of this yod is asking you to decipher the information that you're getting, to use your powers of analyzation. Is that a word? To analyze things. Mercury is not only the ruler of Virgo, your 7th house, it's also exalted. So Mercury is actually super powerful here, more so than you would think of in Gemini. So this moment in time is really fighting between this, I want to innovate, I want to do new things, but yet I feel a sense of responsibility, a sense of duty to be of service to others. I'm emotionally tethered to a bigger picture. And yet that bigger picture is best supported by taking action in a way that comes from something that feels nurturing and feels warm and feels like you get to express the best parts of yourself. Again, Cancer's your 5th house. That's the house that is the most individualistic. It's the house that rules your high school experience, your romances, your sense of fun, your sense of joy and entertainment. And while Mars is not in good favor here, Mars gets to slow down and learn how to use fire and water to create something that is productive. I mentioned the steam engine earlier, but there's also, like, the teapot. Without fire, the teapot cannot whistle. And so I just feel like there's this combination of things that if Pisces can pull back from their mind and go into their spiritual practices, whether it be meditation, listening to music, taking a nice walk, putting your feet in water, you will feel the underbelly. And within that feeling of the underbelly, you can start to make choices without having to identify every nook and cranny within the underbelly. All right, let's go on to the 17th, where we're going back into eclipse season. And this is partial lunar eclipse. It's happening in your first house at 7:34 p.m. And this is, we see here that did I say a partial lunar eclipse? Yeah, lunar eclipse. We have this lunar eclipse is conjunct Neptune. And right now, this is very, very powerful because this is going to be an illumination of something very strong within your intuitive body. And to me, this Neptune moon conjunction really allows me to feel at a deep level the divinity within me. It illuminates a part of my mind that's been thinking too much, a part of my mind that's been too much in 3D world and forgetting that I'm an eternal energy that through thought creates their experience. We see here there's a focal point between the nodes and Mars during this eclipse. And this to me really brings forth how I take action, how the permissions I give myself to be brave, to be heroic, to be pioneering, to look at the things that may make me angry. And am I going to let them tether me and hold me back? Or will I release myself from them? Because this is a T-square. So this is a karmic point. Libra is your 8th house of transformation. Aries is your 2nd house of money. So here, and when I say 8th house of transformation, it also rules other people's money. So Pisces, this is an opportunity to stand independently. If in relationship you have held a subordinate position, you may feel a little tension to assert yourself, and yet that very assertion will bring you bounty in ways that you might not imagine, because this Aries is your 2nd house, so your independent action, and Aries is ruled by Mars, will bring in something that you cannot see with your eyes right now, that you could only really feel with your heart. And I think that's further evidenced by the square between Venus and Pluto. Again, we're looking at Libra being your 8th house of other people's money. And here there's this, because Pluto naturally rules the 8th house and Venus naturally rules Libra. So this tense moment is something where you can't see, you can feel maybe this trepidation, this unsureness, this, is it possible? Isn't it possible? And that the identification of the fears or the trepidations is not about the focus of that, but rather allowing for the expansion now that Jupiter is offering you. Again, Gemini is your 4th house. So now Venus is working in a harmonious way, in a supportive way, as is Jupiter. Both of these planets are known to create money and wealth and expansion and ease. So I think that this is really sort of an assessment for my Aries. I'm sorry, not my Aries, my Pisces. I was looking at Chiron because the wound here in your 2nd house, while this is the transit wound, it could be very much about your self-expression. It could be about, how you could potentially feel abandoned if you're not following the rules, doing as others want from you. And this is, again, could be the tensions that you're feeling here in Pluto's square, because Capricorn is always going to rule power of some kind over us. It's always going to rule something that makes us feel a sense of duty and obligation, and it doesn't necessarily feel fun. So while this is your 11th house where Pluto is transiting in these last degrees, it could really emphasize your hopes and your dreams and your personal genius. And because Pisces tends to sit behind, it wants to inadvertently be in the alone. You know, Pisces people enjoy crawling into bed and watching a great movie or listening to great music or spending time, you know, away from the rigmarole of the outside world. And this could be calling you into a position of standing more in the limelight. And you may have trepidations about that or concerns about how that would play out. Now, I want to say that during an eclipse is always a time when we are experiencing fated events. We're experiencing something that is calling forth a change that may not reveal itself on the day of the eclipse, but within 6 months or so, we usually see evidence of what that shift is. And I think for me, during this time, while there's lots of squares, we see this, you know, the T square to Mars. We also see, and I can't remember the name of this, I think it's some sort of wedge it's called, but we see this favorable sextile from Pluto to Neptune, from Neptune to Uranus, and the trine from Uranus to Pluto. During this time of the moon, this seems to be the strongest energy. And again, this is a question, will I try to escape what I'm feeling on the inside, or will I address it? Will I allow this illumination to unleash me, to release me from anywhere I've felt enslaved, or anywhere that isn't bringing peace and harmony to me, or any relationships, including sibling relationships, workmate relationships? You could find yourself in a position where you're actually in feeling really discontent in the workplace. And within that, you've decided that you're going to make a shift. And it could be a teammate, a workmate of some kind, because the seventh house also rules our professional partnerships. Okay. Now let's go to the 22nd, where the sun will enter Libra. I'll go to noon. Okay, so we see that the sun has entered Libra. It's at 0 degrees, and it is in an it's approaching the supergalactic center at 2 degrees 22 minutes of Libra. And I think this is significant because the sun is in fall in Libra. Again, that's feeling of, you know, not necessarily having a voice, not being heard, feeling slightly ignored or not taken seriously. And Libra rules partnership. So sometimes the partner will take the priority. And as the sun approaches the supergalactic center, it's going to illuminate the relationship that you have with yourself and the relationship that you have with your money, eighth house, the relationship you have with power and control, and that what other people have over you. And I think that this is really significant because the sun is approaching the south node. So there's going to be this feeling of you know, over the next few days, there's going to be a feeling of really reflecting on a partnership somewhere in your life where you're creating through interactions with other people, either a sense of peace, harmony, collaboration. Do you have a true 50%? If it's a collaboration with one person, I really think there's something going on here where you're being tasked on some level to stand up for your creativity, your talent, to own your piece, you know, PIECE as well as PEACE. And I think that because this individuality here in your second house really, you know, the sun is basically coming into an opposition with the north node as it comes into a conjunction with the south node. So the remedy for this feeling like I can't, not being seen, my ambition is feeling eroded, maybe my light is not shining as bright as I would like it to, is to assert your individuality, your skills, to go back to the drawing board, you know, and be brave enough to really assert yourself in a way. Like if somebody's stopping you from something or somebody's not, then create a new dynamic. I think this is really supported by this grand trine that I see between Pluto, and we've got Uranus in this loose well, it's in a trine, but the grand trine goes up here to Mercury and the sun. It all feels like it's kind of creating, it's not quite an orb, but it's strong enough for me that through a sense of tension, there could be an illumination that unlocks the door that's been holding you hostage. Sounds a little dramatic, but it is a little dramatic. Now we have later in the day, Venus is going to move into what they call her detriment. And when you're in detriment, it's like feeling out of control or not feeling comfortable. And sometimes even things you're working on may feel like they're falling apart. But oftentimes that can just be an opportunity to, let me go a little later in the day, an opportunity to reflect. Okay, so, oh my goodness. All right, I'm not making it. Let me go to 11 p.m. There she is. All right, so very late in the day, Venus moves into Scorpio. Now, when Venus is in Scorpio, this is where she can be sort of, she could get jealous. She could get very focused on what is being coming to her and what's going away from her. She could be very financially focused. We see the square to Pluto. Pluto rules money and rules the eighth house. Scorpio is naturally the eighth house. For you, it's the ninth house of beliefs. There is a sense of business in the ninth house, publishing, branding, marketing, influencing others. As Venus moves into this sign, she's going to feel an awareness to where there's power over her, where there's control over her, if that power is supportive or if it's erosive. And I think that she may get a little hot as she travels through this sign, because right now she's approaching the Shapley attractor, which is at 2 degrees of Scorpio. And this is a place where you release false attachments, where you become aware of the things that tether you to a lower vibration of what you're capable of, and you want to rebel against it. You want to annihilate that and bring something more authentic. It's really an opportunity to feel the behind the scenes influences and psychological dynamics that have held you back. And the square here to Pluto is going to emphasize that. We also see that there's a nice trine. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Venus is challenged. She's challenged because she cannot see her own divinity, her own creativity. She's challenged because she feels that sense of obligation, that sense of duty. Here, this is your first house. And, Pisces is such a cooperative sign that it doesn't like to ruffle feathers. And this transit right here might be asking for that very thing, for you to ruffle a few feathers. And I don't mean confrontationally to others. I mean within yourself, to reconcile the things that you deserve to experience, because it's your natural God-given right. All right, by the 24th, we will see her conjunct the Shapley attractor. I'm going to go back to 12 p.m. Here she is at 2. Oh, the moon is there. I'm sorry. That's Cancer. Here we are. She's at 2 degrees here. And I think this is a really powerful day because I love the way the moon is supporting this epiphany. It's like, okay, I'm going to be gentle with myself. I'm going to be healing of myself. I'm going to nurture myself through my creativity and just pace myself. The square here to Pluto, again, it's been in play for a couple of days. It's been in play in the background so much throughout this whole year. And that's not long enough. But now I really think this is an opportunity to revisit any thought structures. There's that 29th degree of Capricorn. How much do I give myself to the responsibilities, obligations, duties, the authorities that have inhibited me? And if I shifted that a little bit, if I used Uranus's power to be slightly rebellious, how would that look? Would it make things actually feel better, or would it make me more challenged? Now, I want to offer this too, because there are a lot of things going around in the background. The world here in the United States is experiencing a very tumultuous presidential election year. We see things happening all around the world that represent a little bit of upheaval. And having Mars transiting through Cancer, we could see even a little bit of arguing in the homeland, although that is your 5th house. So I'm just saying all of this so that you, rather than falling prey to the media and to the communications coming to you, you can be more proactive and allow yourself to maybe do a media detox or use your creativity as a place of meditation or a place of solace during times of upheaval. We see here that both Mercury and the sun are in a grand trine with Pluto, and Pluto is in a trine to Uranus, and Uranus is now in a trine up here. So this is a very supportive aspect to counteract this challenging dynamic between Neptune, the moon, and the sun in a T-square. And this could very well be sort of where emotionally, you know one thing, but you have no control over it. You have no personal influence over a situation. So the best way to support the vibration of peace or harmony or a sense of feeling connected is to go into that quiet time of creative endeavors or meditation or things and dynamics that create peace for you, literally. All right, and we go on the let's look at the 26th now. Go 2 days, and we see that Mercury has entered Libra. And as Mercury enters Libra, it is conjunct the Sun and the South Node. So there is definitely going to be thoughts of my ambitions, how do I create clients? When we think about the 8th house, that's where, we exchange money, but it's not always money that's given to us. Sometimes it's money that we move around. Financial brokers, bankers, people who deal with finance and money and stocks, they're all located in that 8th house. And so now this is partnership and money and sex all layered on top of power and control on top of this. So here, again, a review of how I shine my ambition. I may feel a sense of erosion or a sense of having to be egoless to another dynamic in order to assert myself, in order to feel that sense of being independent and the boss in my own life. And again, that 2nd house is a money house. The 8th house is a money house. The difference between the two is the 8th house refers to other people's money. Somehow there's a commingling. And in the 2nd house, I create my money. I'm the one through my skills, through my voice. So this really is remedied. The challenges of this dynamic are remedied through your independent action and independent thought, which is, again, evidenced over here in your 5th house of creativity by being brave and using, even if Mars isn't, swimming in hot water right now, it doesn't mean it can't feel like a nice jacuzzi. That's the way I want to put it. Now let's just quickly go to the 29th. And when we get to the 29th, we see that Mercury is conjunct the South Node. And there's the sun there as well. So this now is taken on a different configuration. The sun has experienced its reflection as to how do I want to really feel a sense of mental peace and harmony for myself? How do I want to interact? And I want to offer this too, because there is the potential that this could represent other people in your life, not just your own personal thoughts, but other people's thoughts, other people's opinions. And while, again, Pisces is such a compassionate and warm and mutable sign that you could easily be swayed by other people. And I think this is an opportunity to be egoless to potentially other people's thoughts as you look to your sun and how you want to project that sun out into the universe. We see that Saturn is retrograde in your 1st house. Again, I mentioned that we have a nice trine to Mars here. Saturn and Mars, it's funny because most astrologers talk about how they're so different. Mars wants to move fast, Saturn wants to slow down, and yet Mars is in its exaltation in Capricorn, which Saturn rules. So here I'm looking at the 14th degree. That's the Taurian degree. It is degree of using my skills, again, of my voice, of my Venusian qualities. And there's Venus in this very loose grand trine here. I think this is very supportive of sort of moving the story forward by continuing to build a strong structure with my team of heavenly hosts, to remember that, start with my being energy, my belief, my disposition, my attitude, and then going out and taking my action, which then produces more bounty for me in the form of resources and things that I created for myself. So it's a very powerful time that we're walking through. We also have the landscape of our structures around us are changing. They're being renovated not only as a result of technology and the innovation that technology provides, but also this is a time when we're awake. Uranus is the great awakener. And here Uranus is awakening your mind and bringing forth the genius that is your intuition, that is your inner knowing, Pisces. So as you stand in awareness of these opportunities, you stand in power to them. You stand in support of something that helps you to be the best version that you can possibly be of yourself. So that's it for September. I want to offer you to check out the monthly new moon and full moon videos. We are in eclipse season, and we start our eclipses here in September. We'll have another one in October, so there'll be a separate video for that. Please join me Sunday mornings live at 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's where we look at the week ahead's transits, and we get a tarot card and an angel reading for them. And if you'd like to subscribe, share, comment, hit that notification bell, I would just love it. So welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoyed this information, and I'll see you in October. Have a lovely September, Pisces.